Okay, here's part three. Pick up where I left off. I was just talking about medications. Along with all of that medication that I showed you, he was on oxygen. So he had a machine at home that ran. It went up to, I believe, 15 milliliters of oxygen. He was on about, I want to say about six. I could be wrong, 6 or 8, somewhere between there. Um, and that thing just ran all the time, and he had it on him. And he just, he walked through the house with it or whatever. He sat. He had a couple portables. He had those big green oxygen tanks and the small ones for travel. We did manage to get him one of those small little Inogen units that he can kind of carry like a backpack, which helped, but it had a short charge on it. So it's like, might be able to get 4 or 6 hours on it with both batteries that we had. Um, so um, so we always have to, carry that stuff around and make sure that he has enough of that. Anyway, along with that, he had to do there's this jacket that he had to wear, this respiratory jacket, and he hated it. In fact, that was one of our main compliance things because he used to say he did it, but he didn't really do it, but not that often anyway. So the jacket was we still have to return it. We have to figure out where to send it, but we have to send that back. And so that was one other thing. In addition to that, he had lung exercises. So we used to, and when I say we, I mean my wife worked with him mainly on medication and these exercises, and she was really good at bedside manner and working with him and him listening to her. Um, but one of the things was blowing out the candles and breathing in or smelling the roses. That was a constant thing. Is to kind of not only just ease his anxiety, because when you're losing your breath, you get nervous and it just kind of makes things a lot worse. But getting in the oxygen as much as he could to kind of bring his oxygen back up. And I mean, it was often that he got under 90, and that's not good. Anything under 90, that little thing you wear on your finger when you go to the doctors. That's your pulse ox, and he lived by that thing. You're not supposed to, but he used to always check it every 5.5 seconds, and but that's one of the things we had to look out for is his oxygen levels. And we also tried balloons. Balloons help. I think he kind of liked doing those because he used to, let him go and make the squeaky sound and all that. So we kind of tried to make fun of it, him, you know, um, the other methods. And he had these other little devices the hospital gave him. So we tried to improvise and as best we could. So as I was saying, I mean, it was all that stuff and trying to have him remember to do all that. It's tough. Um, we knew when he wasn't doing it. I mean, you could tell. Um, but at the same token, it was hard because we couldn't afford like a full-time caregiver. Um, and we couldn't get coverage for that either. That's a little part of they don't tell you. You don't, caregiving and someone to come out and make sure he's taking his medication. I mean, you got to be there pretty much the whole day. So that was tough. Um, so, but he just lost track of time all the time. He'd be like, "Yeah, I took that this morning," but he had no idea what day it was. He didn't know if it was this morning or yesterday morning. You know, so and you saw that medicine. That's crazy. You know, it's hard to keep up with. We went to that color system with those colored boxes not that long ago. I mean, it was last month, and he was doing real good with the color boxes because, I mean, look at these boxes. This is what he'd have to look at. Okay, and then all these things, they all look the same. Let me grab one of them. These they all look the same. You can't read anything on there. I don't know how they expect someone approaching their 80s, with the vision that they have, to know these things. I mean, these pharmaceutical companies don't have a clue, you know. So we tried so many different types of methods to try to, get him, make it easier for him to understand when he has to take things and so forth. This seemed to be working. Um, as best as we can tell, he was definitely more compliant with the color bin thing than before that. And trust me, we've tried all kinds of things. Check out this. So this is it was a couple years old, but all that medicine, all the exercises written down, laminated, medication instructions, um, diet and exercise, sleep, the environment, which is can go with that. I mean, for people who have COPD, it's important to understand that. I mean, they can't be around people who smoke. And when I say that, I mean, and I'm not directing this to my mom or anything. This is just in general. This is a helpful little note for people who don't understand it. Smokers, they get smoke in their hair. The scent is in their hair. The odor is in their hair. It's on their clothes. It's in their car. It's on their hands. Those can actually trigger an aspiration or exasperation or whatever it's called. Those are, I mean, it's not good. So it's a lot of people they don't understand that. And it's really important. If you're going to be around someone who has one of these, I imagine it might be even similar to having somebody having severe asthma. I mean, if it triggers um, some of these things that can damage your lungs even more, I mean, you can't be around that. So you have to take extra precautions, like changing your clothes, maybe not smoking that, after showering and changing your clothes and until after you see that person. But anyway, I digress. So we had all these procedures written up, trying different things. Um, anyway, so that was the cycle. I can't tell you how many. I used to joke that he must get every 10 visit get an extra visit for free card at the hospital. He was there. I think he told me in this last week or two that before he passed that he I think he was there more than he was home, which I mean is true. I mean he was here for Mother's Day, went straight from here to the hospital, was there for like over a week, came home. It was really good for a few days. And then he had a really bad aspiration that landed him back in the hospital. I had to go by ambulance, and well, that was the last time he was home. So it's all it takes. He was having a really good week, and all it took was one bad aspiration to send him from 6 to 8 milliliters of oxygen to requiring 50 milliliters of oxygen, and that's high pressure heated oxygen that only a hospital can provide. So at that point, there was really no option of him going home because nowhere else they can't support anything less than 50. Usually it's up to 15. Even hospice only covers up to 15. Um, so as you can imagine, my father was tired at this point. I mean, he had given us indication he wanted to talk about hospice and so forth, but one of the tricks was he it was going home, doing home hospice, which is not let's just say it's not the way you want to go. It won't be comfortable. You don't have as much support. The family has to administer the morphine and so forth. You had the hospital hospice, and basically it would be the doctors at hospice would give the orders for the medication, and then the hospital staff would administer it. So you wouldn't have that, and you'd be in a hospital room. So basically what we had to do was try to get him well enough. This is what we wanted, well enough to survive the transport to hospice. So we got to a point where on that Monday, June 5th, we were able to make the decision to get him over to that hospice. He was well enough for the transport, and that's what we did. We got the hospice. I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 8. It's all kind of a blur to me. But anyway, and then he of course passed at about by my watch and my observations, it was about 10:20. Officially, it was I think 10:24, 10:25. But I mean, I was in a room with him, so I think my timing is a bit more accurate. But regardless, it was a tough night. So anyway, let's move on from that subject. And I just wanted to cover a few other things. I know we're coming up on 12 minutes, at least on this clock. So this will end up being, I guess, a 4-parter. Not actually that tired yet, but I'm getting there. So let's move on. Since the last update, a couple of things have happened. Let's see, the urn and flag. This Friday, I've gotten an indication from the cremation home that those are ready. At least definitely the urn. Hopefully the flag will be there as well for pickup. So my father should hopefully be coming home on Friday. So that'd be awesome. It's gonna be a tough day, nevertheless, but still, I'd rather him be home than sitting at the cremation place. We got a really nice blanket from hospice. I haven't opened it yet. This is the blanket he received, or we received. It's a nice blue blanket with some lapel pins. Sorry about the, may not be able to see it if I get in front of it. There we go. There we go. So we did receive that. A couple other random things. Need to give a shout out to our congressman here in our district, Congressman Byron Donalds. Sent out a really nice letter to my father for his service. What this says is Congressman Donalds honors the memory of Richard Edward Button. Certificate is awarded by a grateful nation, recognition and commitment and faithfulness to the service of our country in the United States Navy. Byron Donalds. It doesn't look like looks like it's actually signed by him and not just some form letter. I actually reached out to Congressman Donald's office, not expecting a response. And this is what I received. And sorry, I had to cough there. The fact that I received anything, a response, and this, very grateful.